the first World Circular Economy Forum, the best World Circular Economy Forum. We hope you are rested after yesterday's activities. You will know as the organizers, they ordered beautiful Finland, Helsinki sunshine, just a day late, but that's the way life goes. Just interested, how many of you made it down to the Alice Sea Pools last night? Fantastic. We could smell the ozone. Fantastic. How many of you made it into the water? You are truly crazy. So fantastic. Wonderful. Just before we get going on our Circular Business Leaders session, again, reminder of the spirit of this forum. It's not just about what's going on here, it's the connections you're making. So in that spirit, as a few more people are just arriving, I'm going to ask you for 3 minutes to reach out, reach behind, find a total stranger, do two things. Number one, greet them warmly as is your cultural custom. And secondly, you could ask them whether they've worked out how you're going to get this off without a pair of scissors. Okay, so find someone fresh and say good morning. Okay. Fantastic. So if we could come back together, please. One of these conferences, I'm going to be brave enough when we start having a conversation just to go off stage and just leave it for the rest of the day, because the true value in this space is yourselves. And we hope we've created the opportunity for you to make those connections. But remember, our one ground rule, apart from smiling for this forum, is talk to strangers. It's always easy to slip back into our familiar comfort zone with people we know, but please, today is your greatest opportunity. There are 1,499 people who want to meet you. Give them the chance. Okay. So this morning we're talking, our title is Circular Business Leaders. Great title. I love that. Too many lunches? No, I don't think so. But we know that at the heart of transformation isn't going to be governments and policies and all the rest of it. It's going to be businesses actually doing things differently, creating the goods, the services that we as consumers, in creating our spaces to live, our lives, are consuming. So without the drive and the transformation within the business community, everything is but naught. So this morning, what we're going to do is to hear some voices from business that is part of that amazing transformation journey, maybe the biggest revolution that is now taking place in the whole way we think about and do business. And we're going to have an opportunity to hear some different perspectives and then have some conversation with these leaders. There's nothing more exciting than being at a forum where we are having the launch of a new document. And I'm excited, as our first speaker is going to provide us more information on, that we have the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, hereafter called the WBCSD, who are a great organization really trying to draw together and galvanize the change makers in business. And they today are launching, appropriately enough, their CEO guide to the circular economy. There you are, and you can tell it's for CEOs because it's only about 10 pages long. To tell us more about the thinking behind this transformation, the evidence that underpins, and this little guide and what we hope it's going to achieve, please welcome to the platform the Managing Director, Natural Capital of WBCSD, Ms. Maria Mendeluce. Great to have you with us. Hi.
Good morning to all. Buenos días. Thank you for joining us in this morning. We are thrilled to have released at this landmark circular economy event our CEO guide to the circular economy. Let me begin by providing you a brief overview of what is the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. Oops. WBCSD is proud of convening 200 forward-thinking global companies committed to advance the sustainability agenda. Our mission is to accelerate the transition to a sustainable world by making more sustainable business more successful. Collaboration across companies and industries is the only option to build a safe and resilient world where sustainable business are more successful. Our vision is to create, by 2050, a world where more than 9 billion people live well within the limits of the planet. And this includes moving to closing material and resource loops and improving eco-efficiency, on average by a factor of 10. In fact, over 20 years ago, WBCSD coined the term eco-efficiency. This concept has been a stepping stone to what we now call the circular economy, a new model that is regenerative by design. The goal in a circular economy, as you all know, or most of you know, is to retain as much value as possible from resources, products, parts, or material to create a system that allows a long life, optimal reuse, refurbishment, remanufacturing, and recycling. Now more than ever, business are key to drive transformation, to unleash circular innovation, boost the global economy, but more important, meet the Sustainable Development Goals and the Paris Agreement. The CEO guide that we are launching today in Helsinki has been endorsed by 14 CEOs who already are leading the way in a circular mindset. I'm glad to be here in this panel with Accenture Strategy, with whom we have developed this guide. With Stora Enso, the CEO, Carl-Henrik Sandström, that is here today to explain the circular mindset. I'm also quite happy to be in this panel with Åsa Bergman, our leading women, but that's another story. The CEO guide outlines why moving to a circular economy will help future-proof business and how to get started. Thank you, Carl. Thank you, Quentin, for helping us bring this guide here. The circular mindset sounds great, but what does it mean? Let's see. I'm having trouble with the slides. OK, here it is. We have created a call for action to CEOs to consider the risk of staying the course of the linear economy and the tremendous upside that the circular economy presents. According to Accenture, transitioning to a circular economy can unlock global GDP growth of $4.5 trillion by 2030 and will enhance the resilience of global economies. It is also important to note that Accenture research shows that unless trends are reversed, resource supply disruptions coupled with rising and increasing volatile prices will, in the next 2 decades, also translate into trillion-dollar losses for companies and countries whose growth remains tied to the use of scarce and virgin resources. For years, we have been talking about the risk of a linear economy, but what are the business risks specifically? We know that even with run-of-the-mill technological improvements and resource efficiency, we'll still be overusing around 40 billion tons of natural resources every year by 2050. Moreover, resource price volatility is the new normal. The scale and speed of demand growth, coupled with short-term but frequent price fluctuation, could lead to higher long-term prices and greater supply and security. At the end, it's quite simple. We cannot keep today's resource use rates with 9 billion people living in this planet. We must rethink how we use resources in a more intelligent manner, in a circular way. Circular economy opportunities are very appealing to business. Business can reduce operating costs, improve competitiveness, and strengthen relationships with customers, employees, and providers. Let me give you some examples of additional benefits. 500,000 additional jobs can be created in France alone with circular principles, according to the Club of Rome. 37% of reduction of energy consumption in the EU can be achieved by circular economy solutions, according to the research by Accenture. And between 400 and 600 billion of potential revenue in automotive companies can be created with circular economy business. But most importantly, it makes good environmental sense. Because too often, we are confronted with great solutions that make environmental sense, but where the economics are missing. But when we talk about circular economy, we all start with the economics, and then at the point that sometimes we even forget the environmental benefit. And that's why WBCSD, in collaboration with Tech Office, analyzed global material flows and found that 8 materials, amongst them steel, aluminum, plastics, are responsible for 20% of global emissions, 95% of water use, and 88% of land use. Circular economy measures, in particular in the areas of shelter and food, can help address climate change, water, and land use challenges. And now comes the how. How do we take these ideas into reality? After analyzing more than 120 business cases, Accenture identified 5 business models that will help companies implement the circular economy. The first one is to use circular supplies that use renewable energy and bio-based or fully recyclable inputs. I think we will hear more about this from the panelists today. Implement resource recovery, that is, recover useful resources of materials by products or waste. Extend the product life cycle by repairing, upgrading, and reselling, as well as through innovation and product design. Explore sharing platforms by connecting product users to one another and encourage shared use, access to, or ownership of increased product use. And move from product to service. So the key to success in combining these key business models is to use the disruptive technologies, digital technologies, physical technologies, and biological technologies. I think we will hear more about this in this panel and today. So what can business do? How do we get the others on board? Our call for action, initiated by our 14 leading CEOs, lays out a plan on how to get started. And what we recommend our companies, the 200 companies with whom we work, but more broadly, global companies, because everything we do at WBCSD is open source and it's ready for you to use. So please go and check in our website and download the guide that you can also find outside. But what we recommend then is first set a circular vision. Leadership can create a business imperatives, cultural changes, and governance to promote the circular mindset. CEO leadership is key, and I'm so glad to have a few CEOs that will talk after me, where you can hear from them at first hand. Choose your circular model. Move beyond waste and recycling models. Circular economy is much more than that. Leverage the full suite of circular business solutions. Leverage the technologies that are disruptive and that are there ready to make the most out of your circular transformation. Very important, work in teams. Achieving a circular transformation requires teamwork across function areas in the companies, from R&D to procurement to supply chain, manufacturing, and marketing. Start small and then scale up. To get started, start small and pilot innovative projects that could lead into long-term strategies. Celebrate successes, reevaluate failures, and work on scaling up. Collaborate, and that's what we do at WBCSD, by joining forces with other companies and stakeholders across the value chain. You can remove the barriers and work on solutions that will bring you benefits faster. And finally, track progress. Use financial, environmental, and social metrics to measure and track the impact of circular innovation that the circular innovation has in your business. Today, WBCSD is launching our new circular economy program, which is called Factor 10, and it links to our Vision 2050 that I mentioned before. Our intent is to bridge theory with practice and help business around the world collaborate to scale up the move towards a circular economy. As our CEO guide indicates, a strong and visionary CEO leadership is essential for implementing the circular economy and for reaching new levels of sustainable growth. The future of business is circular. Let's get started. Thank you.
Maria, thank you so much. This little guide, it's downloadable from the WBCSD website, so download it, read it on the transport going home, and if you're not a CEO, just send it with a little email to the person who should be reading it. So it's clear that we are seeing the pathways to transformation. It's clear also this is a time of disruption, where business as usual for all sorts of reasons is no longer the case. One of those disruptors, which in fact is either a foe or a friend, depending how you view it, is the whole transformation towards the digital economy. IT digitalization is transforming the whole way we operate, and we've only begun to realize its potential. And CEOs are only beginning to realize that if they're not ahead of that game, my word, they'll soon be behind it. So to talk a little bit more about that and how that can be a real driver for competitive advantage within a circular economy model, delighted to welcome to the platform Quentin Drull, who's from Accenture and basically the global circular economy lead. Great job title to have, very much involved in the whole IT strategy consultancy world. So Quentin, great to have you with us and interesting to hear about all that disruption going on and how we harness it to our advantage. Quentin Drull.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Peter, and thank you, Maria, for introducing the WBCSD CEO Guide. It's wonderful to be here at the World Conference for the Circular Economy and also at the launch of the WBCSD CEO Guide. And it's my pleasure to, as Accenture, thank the CEOs who have contributed to the guide and really made an important milestone in the work that we're doing on the circular economy. The CEO Guide was constructed as a way to allow businesses to get started on their own circular economy journey, people who are taking their first steps. And in putting it together, we drew from the work that we've done with our clients on the business models and the value at stake equation. We believe that the circular economy is a really important part of competitive advantage for every business. So no matter how big you are, how small you are, you need to be thinking circular. And we've seen the evidence of this firsthand from the work that we've done with our clients, of course, but also from the businesses that we've seen coming through the Circular Awards program that we run with the World Economic Forum, the over 600 entries that we've had through there, and the other research that we've done into the circular economy. And we believe that this provides really vital lessons for organizations who are looking to embed circular economy in their day-to-day operations. It's sobering to think that since the year 2000, around 52% of the companies in the Fortune 500 have either gone bust, have been acquired, or have ceased to exist, due in a large part to the disruption of their traditional business models through technology. And in this volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world, this speed of transformation poses a real problem to leadership. How can they find new ways of competitive advantage? What we're finding across industries is that the best of the best, those who are really redefining what competitive means, are focusing on three things: on growth, profitability, and sustainability and trust. In terms of growth, we estimate that there's tremendous value, $4.5 trillion, as Maria has already mentioned, that can be seized by bold companies who move to a circular economy. Companies who've found new ways of meeting their customers' needs, customers who make new innovative business models, develop new products and services, and discover untapped markets. In terms of profitability, well, what well-run organization doesn't already understand the benefits that can be won from eliminating non-value creating spend and resources into a new agile operating model? Profitability in terms of circular economy means responsible cost reduction, supply chain resilience, and increased resource efficiency. Surely that's just good business sense. And sustainability. By closing the loop with your customers, you build greater brand value, closer customer engagement, increased reputation and trust, and greater transparency and responsibility. But in order to be successful, all three of these things have to be present together. They need to be interdependent. And technology is an important part of this competitive advantage. We like to think of the double helix of technology and sustainability that creates this competitive advantage for our customers. And to quote Klaus Schwab's book, The Fourth Industrial Revolution, we stand on the brink of a technological revolution that will fundamentally alter the way that we work and the way that we relate to one another. In its scale, scope, and complexity, the transformation will be unlike anything humankind has experienced before. We're already in the foothills of this transformation. Technology is creating new profit pools by transforming customer expectations on how customers address them. At the same time, technology provides significant benefits for society that equal and even surpass the value that is created for industry. For example, technology has the potential to enable a 20% reduction of global CO2 emissions by 2030. Another example, the mass adoption of autonomous vehicles and usage-based car insurance could save up to 1 million lives by 2025. So the social benefit, the environmental benefits of technology must not go unremarked. And we like to think of three buckets of technologies that are changing the world: digital, physical, and biological. Digital technologies like the Internet of Things, big data, blockchain, RFID. We know that, for example, M2M applications in manufacturing can produce productivity increases of between 2.5% and 5%. Physical technologies like 3D printing, robotics, energy storage, modular design technologies, and nanotechnologies. We know, for example, that nanotubes in concrete can double the concrete strength, meaning a longer life cycle and less material usage. Biological technologies, bioenergy, bio-based materials, biocatalysis, hydroponics, and aeroponics. Consider AeroFarms, for example, the American company that grows leafy greens and herbs without sunlight, soil, or pesticides. So that intersection between technology and the 5 business models that Maria has already set out, the 5 business models of the circular economy, is really important. And we think those 5 business models and those 5 technology groupings interact together to create something really special. Let's have a look at some of those interactions. Let's think about the Internet of Things. SKF, the Swedish engineering company, uses the Internet of Things to monitor and optimize the performance of its bearings and postpone replacement of its bearings in its machinery to prolong their lives and reduce its costs. Energy harvesting and storage. Tesla promotes renewable energy through integrated solar roof and wall-mounted energy storage solutions. Bio-based materials. Think about Adidas, who have created artificial spider silk that is biodegradable and means that shoes can be disposed of by washing them down the sink. Green chemistry. Think of New Light Technology, who take carbon out of the air and make them into high-performance thermoplastics. And artificial intelligence. Perhaps think about AMP Robotics, who have advanced recycling systems that use computer vision and analytics to sort and process waste. So what are the steps to get there? Well, we see that organizations often go through a transformation pattern that starts with small and scattered pilots with local enthusiasm, but often low economic returns. They then have to overcome the barriers of developing the business case, breaking down silos within their organization, and correcting perhaps the legacy that means they are unable to disrupt their own business internally. And once they've overcome those barriers, they can scale up those pilots, perhaps identifying 3 to 4 promising concepts to take to market and scale up with a clear commercial model. And then the next stage, moving from a circular organization and scaling up into the circular ecosystem, means working with your partners, it means working with your consumers, and working with regulators to make sure that rather than remaining a circular company, your circular message spreads to the ecosystem in which you work. And there are examples of that. Through our work in the circular economy with our clients, we see leaders coming through, companies like Rubicon, Nike, Peerby, and MBA Polymers. Rubicon, who have developed an app to identify and make more efficient the waste collection and sorting process. Nike, who's been incessant in developing new technologies and recovering materials from its waste stream to recover into new product. Peerby, who have over $1 billion worth of products available for sharing on their platform and 250,000 active members. Or MBA Polymers, the upcycling company who repurposes high-performance plastic and can save up to 80% of the energy for each ton of virgin plastic compared to each ton of virgin plastic. So those examples are emerging But that leadership and that multi-stakeholder collaboration to create systems change is really necessary. And we believe that combined with the 5 circular economy business models and the 5 technologies, we can create a powerful platform for change. Thank you very much.
Quentin, thank you very much indeed. And in due course, we're going to open up a panel discussion which will allow us to really dig a little bit deeper into some of those change factors. Clearly, these disruptors, such as technology, digitalization, are very important. But if we are going to be part of transformation, transformation requires finance, investment in the change that reaps the rewards. To offer us some insights around the world of finance related to a circular economy. Delighted to welcome to the platform a member of the management board and head of wholesale banking at ING, a Netherlands-based banking group. Please welcome to the platform Isabel Fernandez.
Thank you.
Great to have you with us. Hi.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks, everyone, and I'm delighted to be here. ING was announced by Sustainalytics as being the #1 in the world in our industry, which we're proud of. But then again, we're an industry that needs a heck of a lot of work. So I'm not sure that that's the standard we should set. Today, I'm going to share with you some of the thoughts that ING has about the future of the circular economy. I want to be a little bit provocative on some of these things, hopefully helped by Peter later on the panel. So the first one here is around there's no world for unsustainable companies. So sustainability is a very serious business, but businesses today that are unsustainable have an ability to operate in the world. We expect this to change. We believe that sustainability will be a matter of compliance in the future, and that companies who do not perform well will no longer be able or licensed to operate. Banks perform a societal role in our world, and that role is one where we increasingly use sustainability as a factor in decisioning whether or not we do business with a company. We at ING put sustainability into every financing decision, and we even go a step further, which is to say that sustainability is part of our business strategy. We will not be the only ones in the future. The realization of an economy as set by the boundaries of the Paris Agreement is currently mostly left to the markets. Governments intervene, but in a rather soft way. They might put out their subsidies or will work on carbon credits. But time is running out. If we don't produce better results at businesses, governance will start to use regulation as a way to force a green economy, which includes examples like putting corporate taxation onto carbon intensity of revenues, and that will hurt. And we as an institution feel that it is our job to help lead in the setting of the standards for the green economy and not wait until regulation catches up. The circular economy clearly supports the change that you see right now of the trend of asset ownership and asset use being split. If you're a user of an asset, you will in the future no longer have to be either the owner or the financier of the asset. We see this in industries where you think about MRI scanners or car tires or baby clothing, and increasingly products will be delivered as a service. Now, if and when it becomes possible to track the exact usage, then the users will be able to be charged on the back of their individual usage, whether it's by the kilometer or by the scan. And that will develop, as we've already seen, a number of pay-per-use models. But what this trend also does is it changes the asset ownership, because the producers of assets are either not able to or not willing to own these assets when they service and provide the pay-per-use to their clients. It's very simple. Either these balance sheets become incredibly long. Just picture an example where you today have a revenue when you sell an asset, you can recognize that asset, that revenue straight away in the profit that you make on that. When you then have a deal with your client, when you service this over a period of 7 years, you have to recognize that over 7 years. So companies who produce assets do not have an incentive to want to own these assets in the long run when their clients have pay-per-use. So we as an institution, as a bank, are already working today with setting up companies and entities that will own and operate these assets and who will finance them. Now, an impact of that shift in asset ownership is also that these assets will be used in a much different way, because the owners of the assets will care to maximize the utilization of these assets so that their assets are both safe and yielding. And what that does is that creates new models whereby the owner of the assets wants to maximize it, and maximizing can be done through sharing or through customization. BMW, for instance, is an example of a company who is working on customizing by giving people the opportunity to, on demand, get either the SUV or the SUV family car or a convertible, depending on the time that you need it. But another side effect of this will be, when we talk about the automotive industry for a second, that there might be some stranded assets. So Tony Seba, who is a lecturer at Stanford University, put out there the quote that in 2030, about 95% of the US passenger travel will be done on assets that are served, autonomous cars, cars that are not owned by individuals but by a fleet. So a complete shift in the ownership of the asset and how we use them. And you can imagine, with higher utilization becomes obsolescence. So even if he's 50% right, you'll see that that has huge impact on the car manufacturing industry. And so whether it's urban mining, whether it's higher utilization of assets, all of these things will have an impact on the stranded assets and the obsolescence that you'll see in companies. And clearly that is also going to be the negative side effect of our circular economy. We'll also need new infrastructure. That sounds a bit strange, but think about an industry that needs accounting rules that manage the shared economy and pay-per-use. You'll need legal frameworks that are able to incorporate the shared use and the shared ownership of assets. So a lot of this will have to be thought up as well, and we need to figure out collectively, want to trust a society, we'll need to be able to have that type of infrastructure. Data, finally, is the currency of tomorrow. We need to track assets. We need to be able to measure, collect data, analyze data, manage data, store data, and we have to do that in a safe way. And I believe that banks will have a very large role to play in that as well. So finally, if we, by 2030, or maybe even a lot sooner, we find ourselves in a world that's much more circular, where you're online all the time, where your assets are upgraded from a distance, where your supermarket talks to your refrigerator, where your car is autonomous and driverless, we'll find ourselves there, but it's not going to happen without a huge amount of work from all of us, and we believe that that's going to be businesses' job as well as governments. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Much food for thought, and I've never been happier. Just pause for a moment. You've heard 3 presentations. Just take a breath, have a word with the person next to you or your newfound friend, or even just tap into Twitter hashtag WCEF2017. What thing has most hit you between the eyes this morning already? Tell an unsuspecting world about what's going on in here. 3 minutes just to pause from looking at the screen. Then we're going to drive on with some real case studies of transformation action. So just take a moment of pause, talk to your neighbor. Okay. If we could come back together, please. Great, so hopefully already we've stimulated some thought. Just a thought for the discussion we're going to have. If you've got a question or an amazing insight, if you are connected onto the app and you go into messages, so if you go on to get through to, where we go, Ask and Vote, Finlandia Hall, messages, you can send something and it'll come through to my iPad. There you are. Even a nearly 60-year-old can use one of these. So there's hope for us all. So if you want to just offer a comment, which I might throw into the panel, then we can do that. And also do use the hashtag to keep the messages going out to an unsuspecting world. Now, we've had 3 presentations. We've got 3 more to come. Presentations, they're great, but they are presentations. I'm a disruptive facilitator in a disruptive world. So for our next 3 presentations, we're trying a slightly different technique, which you're going to love, but the presenters are going to hate. So basically, how many of you have heard of Pecha? Fantastic. So there we are. So invented by architects in Japan, because architects love talking about their stories, but you couldn't stop them, so death ensued. So what they worked out doing was saying, you can tell about your story, and you can have 20 slides, amazing images to illustrate it, but we're going to control the timing. So each slide is only going to be on for 20 seconds. I've converted it into Impact 2017, because it's 2017, so we're going to have 20 seconds a slide, but only 17 slides. And I have 3 willing leaders of business who are going to submit themselves to the joy of selling their story using Impact 2017. As a facilitator, I can now relax because I have control of time, but for them, it means they've got to tell their story with some images behind to reinforce it. So encourage them on the way. We've got 3 great case studies coming up. And our first one is Matti Liivanen, who's president and CEO of Neste, a Finland-based renewable fuels company who have been part of that transformation to a circular economy. So give a huge welcome to the platform to Matti Liivanen. I'm going to remove this from you.
Good.
Thank you very much for agreeing to be part of this. We know you've got a great story, and I think your story starts now.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. I'm very pleased to be here. And now we go to real thing. So I will tell the story that how oil refining company is going to a innovative circular economy company. So Neste has a 70 years old history. So in earlier, traditionally, we have been a regional oil refining company. Today, we are global, the world's largest renewable diesel producer from waste and residues. So what you need to have to having this sort of position, you need to have a vision. And I believe that the companies who do not have the vision and the bigger vision, they do not succeed. And for us, it is the cleaner future. And to go to the cleaner future and having this vision, there is also the things like United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And we want to be part of the solution, not the problem. And in recent years, climate change has been a key drivers in our operating environment. And the solution is that last year we have developed waste to fuel. So we have developed a the renewable diesel, and it's made from organic waste and residues. And it can be used as such in the engines and in the systems. Last year, our product helped to reduce a greenhouse gas emission 6.7 million tons. That equals average emission of 2.4 million cars. This is a real thing. And who do we sell? Our solution has been used by a corporation such as Google to really meet their sustainability goals. Many cities in California, for example, use our products to decrease their climate emission and also the other things. Okay, raw materials. Today we are using very wide range of raw materials, like used cooking oil, waste fat from slaughterhouses, and potentially we are looking also the waste residues from the forest. And the R&D, that's our strong point. This is everything and key for the new feedstocks. We have a cutting-edge R&D. We cooperate with the corporation and the universities globally around the world. Real thing is that it's everyday life. Last Christmas, we collect over 40,000 waste from Finnish households, and we turn that fat waste to renewable diesel. And the thing is that it was enough to dry 4 times around the globe. But the business to replace the fossil fuel needs to be global, and we need to operate globally. So we have developed supply chain, logistic development globally, and that is the key driver for our success. And what you need to change your mindset. You need to have a new mindset and courage to make this happen. You need to cannibalize your existing business as we have done to be the winner. And what that has been cause for us. Last year, the renewable fuels made 469 million profits. That was more than our fossil business. And return of net asset was close to 25%. So, this is a thing. You could make a good thing also with the profit, and that we have shown. But there is a new growth. Our aim is to replace fossil fuels also in plastic and chemicals, and we have announced cooperation with IKEA to change their plastic to renewable materials made from waste and residues. There is other growth, and other growth is aviation. Global aviation industry is growing fast, and so are the emissions. With our renewable jet fuel, it's an easy way to reduce the emission in the aviation industry. But why we are doing this? We are doing this for the future generation, because we want to leave this planet healthier to them. Therefore, we have developed an environmental learning game that is also available here at the seminar lobby. And I believe that without thinking the future generation, we could not make this planet better. And ladies and gentlemen, the best way to predict the future is to create it. Thank you.
Maddie, thank you for those words. Great presentation and some very powerful messages there. Our next Impact 2017 presentation comes from Åsa Bergman, who's CEO and president of Sweco, who's the Sweden-based architecture and engineering consultancy. Great to have you with you.
Thank you.
Us with you, you with us. One of those three. Click the polling question. Welcome to the forum, and we are looking forward to hearing your presentation.
Thank you.
Over to you.
Hey, everyone. Today, Sweco is 15,000 architects and engineers. And by that, we are the largest in Europe. We plan and design the communities and cities for the futures. And what we see is that the circular connected community is the future, and that is actually why I'm here. What you see behind is a project that Sweco has been involved with, and with our experts, and they have all some kind of connection with the circular economy. We've been working with creating circular urban districts long before the term of circular economy appeared on the agenda. We have been working together with UN and the Swedish Export Trade Council to develop the Symbiocity concept, a concept of social, ecological and economical development of a city. And with the Symbiocity concept, we have actually succeeded not only in the Nordics and in Europe, and also in China. We've been working with those major urban building projects in China for over 10 years. The most famous project and urban district in Sweden is Hammarby Sjöstad. It's a district of Stockholm that was groundbreaking in its day due to the eco-cycle model that closed and interconnect the loops of waste, water, energy on a city scale. And it's there, and people have lived there for almost 15 years now. For us at Sweco, the circular economy involves recognition the value of all elements of resource flows. And that is actually what we do on our day-to-day work when we are designing and planning the cities for the futures. And it's also a matter of how we live, and the transition is there, as you heard the other speakers talked about. So Sweco's works may involve logistics and process engineering services, and ensuring the factories that can convert to use resources in a new way. One example is the European Spaltation Source ESS in the south of Sweden. Sweco was instrumental in ensuring that industrial energy was recovered and able to be redirected and used for district heating for around 10,000 households. In the construction and real estate sector, our work may involve improving material flows, smarter interiors, and smarter choices of material. One example is Gothenburg built entirely, a multifamily building in Gothenburg built entirely of wood. Another example is the Mobilia restaurant built in an old factory and with all furnishing made from recycled material and minimizing resources use. We are also seeing new types of customer constellations with collaborations between more players facilitating circular flows. In the Handelsön combined energy system, which was awarded a Sweco Hugo Prize, a great energy prize that we put on the market in Sweden, several players were collaborating in an industrial ecosystem and achieving greater energy output and environmental benefits than they actually could have done on their own. So what are our thoughts about the future? We could see it like this. All elements are there. We have the knowledge, we have the solution, we have the techniques, and we have the skill, but it's not connected yet. We need information, we need data to effectively connect these elements, and we're receiving more and more data. So our ability to use all the data that is in the smart city, it will be easier to plan logistics. Material that is currently wasted will become valuable when we learn where it is, when it's available, and we learn what it costs. In the circular economy, it's important to build in order to knock down. So we work with the digital BIM models, building information models. It's our process, our tools. It's a three-dimension catalog of all a building incoming components and their characteristics. And it could easily seen we can easily see the volumes of bricks, cement, doors, etc. Then we can recycle everything into new projects during renovation, rebuilding, and dismantling. So it's all there. It's all a matter of how we can actually put this into the process, the business model, and the way we actually work when we are building the cities and the communities. With our 15,000 architects and engineers, our role as an urban planner will become more and more important. We meet customers every day in our work. We have like 40,000 ongoing projects today, and we have a very good starting point when it comes to ensure the collaboration and the synchronization and circular flows. In other words, circular economy opportunities in our daily work. We have always been working with sustainability, but this takes us to a new level when we actually connect it all. So the linear era for us is coming to an end, and it's now time for us all to embrace the circular economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Some very exciting images as a possible future. We have the technology. Can we deliver the change? Our final presentation before we open up the discussion, and already some interesting questions and comments coming through via the app. Delighted to welcome to the platform Carl-Henrik Sundström, who's CEO of Stora Enso, renewable materials company. So to offer us a few insights about circular economy and how it's transforming your business and outlook. Delighted to welcome you to the platform.
Thank you, and this is a bit uncomfortable. I'm usually in control. Today I'm not. But have you ever thought what a tree can do? That is what Stora Enso is doing 365 days of the week. Why is that important? Because there is unlimited possibilities to get new products and solutions out of a wood base. Today, only 14% of the plastic are recycled. Today, paper in Europe is recycled over 70%, and many, many more. The way we are going right now is unsustainable. We need to find new solutions. Today, every business, whatever you are in, are actually being guided by 7 megatrends, as you can see on the screen here. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. One of the good things being in the forest industry that you have a raw material that is not only reusable, but also renewable. Why is that important? You can only reuse a fiber 7 times. However, as long as you're growing your forest, you will get more out of the forest, and that's very important. And that's also why very important to go into innovation and R&D. So what we are doing a lot is going in to the deep molecules and the microfibrillates of a tree or nanotechnologies to find new materials. And the possibilities are very, very rewarding. There is a number of new materials coming out. For example, carbon fiber, which you can build planes, cars. You can go into new ways of supporting building materials that is stronger than anything else. You can even start to make very complicated production of windmills, which is very important. So by utilizing the tree in different ways, there is unlimited ways of create new products that will solve some of the challenges this planet is facing. And this is another area we're focusing on. It might seem like a small thing, replacing the fossil-based plastic for water bottles. But that is a big deal. 1 year's consumption of water bottles that I saw was also given out here which is not renewable, goes to the moon and back 25 times. The fast food and prepackaged food industry is growing tremendously, and already in China is almost $400 billion per year. It is not sustainable to continue with fossil-based materials here. You need to go into more fiber-based solutions. The other part is that in 2050, 70% of the population will be living in the big cities. Urbanization is just growing. While, like Åsa talked about, wooden constructions for housing is probably one of the few ways, as Mr. Rockström says, the professor in Stockholm, about creating a carbon sink. But you also need to combine this with semiconductors to make intelligent packaging, to make sure food waste and other necessities are being tracked in a similar way to give better understanding what's happening in the world. You can make solar panels, you can make batteries out of the core of a wood. And that's happening, not today, but in the near future. And that investment is pure R&D and innovation. And that's happening a lot, and that's what we do in Stora Enso. But the fundamental for all this is that you manage your forest. You do not harvest more than you replant. And today, basically in Scandinavia, you are replanting 2 to 3 new trees for every tree you are cutting down, which means that our inventory has increased. Well-managed forests, either they are plantations or the Nordic managed forests, is the foundation for a bioeconomy. The bioeconomy is not the solutions to everything, but it's one of the solutions if we want to continue on this planet. For us, coming out of a traditional paper business, we have been able to transform ourselves from a traditional paper company more to a renewables materials growth company. And this might take a long time in your views, but in 10 years, when you have assets that live for 50 to 70 years, it's a pretty fast transformation. And within Stora Enso, the leading world is that everything today made out of fossil-based materials, tomorrow can be made out of a tree. That gives you unlimited possibilities. And as a final thought I would just share with you, today, forest industry, either it's paper, sawn goods, carton board, whatever, is already circular. Now, and we are utilizing 100% of the tree, now we need to continue to get more value-added product through R&D out of the tree. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you for those presentations. In a moment, I'm going to invite our speakers back on the stage as a panel. But I just want to do a litmus test. I want to get a feeling from yourselves. So I've got a couple of polling questions, I hope. So take a deep breath, get out your iPhones, and go, if you haven't yet got on, go on to Ask and Vote. If it doesn't immediately come up, just go back to the front page and try again. This technology stuff is great, isn't it? But you're all doing it. It's like a rush. It's like the toilets at the break, you know, just suddenly. So there we go. Keep trying if you can't. But I'm interested. If I were here this morning in this bubble, I would think, wow, the future's great, it's going to happen, easy peasy. I just want to get a feeling of where we're at in terms of how would you characterize the state of business leadership, and that's both of leaders and maybe of the businesses themselves, on transformation to a circular economy model. Do you think actually the state of business and business leadership at the moment is dismal? Few notable exceptions. I bow to you. It's patchy. Few notable exceptions, but it's patchy. It's encouraging. We're on the path. We're getting there. Brilliant. Sorted. Fantastic. So there we are. There's 4. A, B, C, D. Okay. So I'm still trying to get in, so I can't vote. But are the votes coming in? Okay. So you've got about 30 seconds. If you don't manage to get in, just don't worry. It's just we're still trying to transform to a digital economy and haven't quite got there yet. So I haven't got in. Maybe I'm being barred from it. So it's Finlandia Hall, obviously. Here we are, now I'm in, so I'm going to vote. Help, I wonder if I'll be the only one who says what I'm going to say. Okay, so tell me when we think we've got critical mass of voting. You're doing okay. Okay, it's the Tuesday morning, it takes a little time. You weren't at the polls last night. Okay, I'm going to give you 20 seconds more. Because you'll either be in or you won't be in. It won't be you're spending 20 seconds thinking about it. So, how would you characterize the state of business leadership on transformation to a circular economy model? Dismal, patchy, encouraging, brilliant. Okay, close the poll, and the answer is, or your opinion is, as follows. Wow, patchy and encouraging. Aha, and my dismal one got there, so that's good. Okay, so interesting. So in this audience, there's a strong tinge of reality. We've got a long way to go. But if we took patchy and dismal, that's about half. If we took encouraging and brilliant, that's about half. So we're split between probably optimists and pessimists. I don't know in this one. Let's do another one. Okay, our second question is, so we want this transformation to happen. What is the most important ingredient to ensure businesses fully embrace the circular economy? A CEO who gets it. A senior management team that get it. An empowered workforce, an aware and active value chain. Now, remembering yesterday, I know that they're all important. Of course they are. But if you had to take one of them to your desert island or say, that's the one that we really need to push energy on, which one would it be? A CEO who gets it, can drive that leadership through. A senior management team that get it, that aren't saying, got a crazy CEO, but we don't get it. So a senior management team, an empowered workforce, organically building change through the entire organization, or an aware and active value chain right the way through the product, service, whatever it is, all engaged in making that difference. What is the most important ingredient to ensure businesses fully embrace the circular economy? In about 20 seconds. Okay, and your response on Tuesday the 6th of June 2017 was, interestingly, the winner is an aware and active value chain. At the opposite end, a female or a male right at the top who gets it, and a little bit of thing around senior management team and empowered workforce. Interesting. Okay. So, thank you very much indeed for that. I'd like my panel to come up and join me now on stage. If you'd like to come up, and if you can sit in your pre-allocated seat, that would be brilliant. So that basically means, yes, in order of speaking would be fantastic. So, could I thank you all so much for your presentations, for your contributions. I've got some wicked questions that are coming driven from the audience, but I'm going to start with my own wicked question, and I just want to get a response. I get excited when I come to these forums. I think we could do it, the possibility. And I think, wow, and the banks and everything. And then I put on the news, and I hear that in Australia, the government have just approved a 16 billion, not 16 million, 16 billion investment in a coal mine in Australia. That's a serious lump of investment with bank investment, government subsidy, all the rest of it. And I think, which world am I in? So I'm just interested. I just would like a comment on this world into which we're moving. I can see the possibilities and the positives, but I just see an embedded inertia in what was, because it serves a huge interest. And I'd just be interested in whether any of you would like to offer a comment as to how I should either be reassured or should we be sharing more concern about the state we are in and likely to be in for some time to come. Who would like to offer a question? Quentin, would you, an answer? Brief comment.
Yeah, so I think we're seeing a lot of activity across the piece, from multinationals who are beginning to experiment and implement circular economy models, down to entrepreneurs who are beginning to pick up the baton and innovate around circular. But I think when you think about the entire business community, this activity is only a small portion of total economic activity. And what multinationals are now thinking about is how they scale up the pilots that have been successful, how they cascade circular economy thinking down their value chains, and how they transform more wholesale. And I think we're still a long way away from a wholesale transformation.
Okay.
I think that it's important to have a cash flow from traditional business that you could really create and new things, and at the same time, as I mentioned, you need to cannibalize. And if I'm thinking about the mining industry also, in mining industry, it's probably needed also in the future, probably also the code. But there also, I think that there is a ways to go a sustainable way. And that's interesting that if there is a 16 billion investments and how much there is a public money involved and how public could then, or governmental money involved and how government could really then drive this money usage for the sustainable way. Not only the cheapest, not only the most polluted way. I think that that is the most important thing, that now the government start really stand up and really demanding the things. And there is a companies who could do it.
Okay.
We decided a couple of years ago to stop financing new coal-fired power plants, which is a policy we had some obligations prior to that, but we don't do any of that. I was last week in the Philippines, and that's one of the areas in the world where they're still building some of these coal-fired power plants. And the people I talk to and question this, they say, well, it's a question of necessity and finding the cheapest cost, because we have half the country that just has no electricity whatsoever, so this is the cheapest way of doing that. I think in the end, 5 to 10 years from now, or hopefully sooner, you'll find that the populations no longer accept it, that there's social pressure to people like us who finance these things and who, of course, have made this choice to no longer do that, or our own opinion, but more broadly in society. So that's what we're looking for.
So at some point there are going to be some investment losers if they're not careful.
Clearly.
Okay. Also, do you want
Yeah, I think it's also important to think about that we are in a transformation, and then it's also connected to time. We are stressed when it comes to time and those issues, but things are happening. So I think we should be, in this sense, positive that we actually have the solution. We discuss the good examples. We see the drivers. We see that there is commitment from leaders and governments all over the world. So I'm quite positive, I would say.
Okay, I've got a question coming from, or a comment from here, which is adds on to this, saying, how do we jump incremental improvement into new business model with short-term shareholder expectations? So the shareholder wants a return, each week, each month, each quarter, each year. I want a return on my investment. And yet you're wanting this transformation, and there's this kind of almost we're fighting each other. I just wondered whether anyone wanted to offer an insight about how do you engage the shareholder in the journey, but they'll say, no, well, we'll go and invest somewhere else where I can get 0.3% more. Going to go to the far end first, then I'll come to you.
I don't think there is such a dramatic conflict here. I think you also need to be very clear with your own long-term targets and your main owners. If you're aligned, then it's not a big deal. The shareholders that are seeking other returns, which are short-term, they might go elsewhere. But if you are convinced, like most of us are here, that we need to change this, I think the return will come for the shareholders to stay, because at the end of the day, the consumers of today, even more tomorrow, will not only think about what they buy, but under what circumstance it has been produced or managed, whatever. So it is.
Okay.
I don't see a contradiction.
This is maybe partly why you need a charismatic CEO who can just hold the vision and the commitment going through.
It's not the CEO. You need to get the people empowered in the company.
Right.
That's when things happen.
Okay. Matti, did you want to?
I share very much what Kalle said, and that's exactly so. And if you have a good owners, they also has a passion. And for example, in Neste case, our market value was 6 years back 1.7 billion euros. Today it's more than 9 billion, and it's coming very much with this circular economy what we have created. So I think that it's exactly what Kalle said. There is a passion.
Can I make one thing? I do think there's a real point with the person who asks this question, because we live in a society where we're all very ADD when it comes to returns. And yes, we are all wanting returns every quarter, every 6 months. So there is an issue here. And I think it does go by people having a vision and a persistence, and even investors who are saying, guys, we're going to have to do this because it's the right thing to do. And funnily enough, the returns actually will come. But we do have an issue at hand. And I think that the person who asked this question.
Right. And there's always time lag.
Yeah,
right. Time lag.
Of course.
Okay. Also.
Can I add something? And I'm on the time theme again. And it's connected to the built environment that we work with. That we know the solution, and we can do the new things and plan for actually having a very good solution for the built environment for today and tomorrow. But the problem is that 90% of everything we have is fixed, and it's invested before and long time ago. So there is actually, in my perspective, in our area, the biggest demand that we have, so much that we have invested in. So that actually is taking time.
Okay, quick comment, Quentin.
Yeah, I think for us in the room also, I think we have to be very careful about the language that we use when we talk about the circular economy. For many businesses, terms like transformation and sustainability are really big and scary. So I think we have to recalibrate some of the language we use in terms of innovation and value to really progress this argument.
Okay. Interesting. I'm going to try another line now. There were some interesting comments. Isabel, you pointed out an amazing vision for the future, but there's been some reaction to that. So I'd like to hear what you think about this. Here we are. I own nothing, I have no privacy, but I've never been happier. Why is no privacy part of the circular future vision? Is that necessary, and why? And someone else has said, how can you seriously claim that people with no privacy are happier than ever before? In my opinion, there's an extremely scary outlook on the future of mankind. Welcome to 1984. They bared their teeth.
All right. Good.
Just
At least we don't have a shy audience. Actually, I like that. So I'm 49 and not on Facebook. And I don't think I will be for quite some time. But there's a whole generation out there that's perfectly happy sharing absolutely everything on social media. And increasingly, you see this change between people's private and public lives. I think it's a choice. So no privacy, I think, is a choice. You can actually exchange your own personal data for value out there. And I think that's where we're going. So anybody who does not want to doesn't have to. And I think technologies like blockchain will help us own our own data and ensure that we can keep those safe and only open those up to people we want to. The question is, how many times do you in the audience click that little button, which is provided by a technology company, that says, do you agree with the terms of this agreement, which is this long and small print, and everybody who wants to watch the film or do whatever, clicks and goes on. And I think that's the world we're going to. This is by choice. This is not because privacy has been taken away. This is not 1984 in my mind. No.
Okay, just fascinating. Take a quick straw poll. None of this stuff is going to be hands. 3 options. Do you get what Isabel is saying and you're with her? Are you No! Or are you still waking up from last night's party? Okay, so first of all, yeah, you understand where Isabel's coming from. Makes sense, yeah? Yeah, okay.
All right.
I got nothing to hide, just bring it on. No!
All right, okay, good.
Okay.
Good. I appreciate that.
I wish you'd whisper. Okay. Okay. Hey, they were all with us. So interesting. There is it's a great debate that we will need to have. Did you want to offer a comment on this?
Yes, in fact, at the World Business Council, we have done a report on the Good Life 2.0 that exactly points to the reflections you made before. I think the millennials, the 20, 30 years old, yes, they're moving to a different world where they're sharing and where their values and their aspirations are very different from the ones that we have seen before. So we have done research by following what is published in Instagram, which many of the people here might not be active, but where the new generations are moving to. And so I think, yes, it is, probably the 20s, 30s, early 40s is there, but then above that, yeah. It's
right. Very interesting.
Backed by research.
Yeah. It must be true in that case. Okay, very interesting. Just another one, quick one to you, Isabel. How can we convince institutional investors like pensions funds to invest in sustainable companies despite fiduciary duty?
I think that's, and not just pensions and investment funds in general. We just issued a number of, for our clients, a number of green products. Green bonds, green hybrid bonds. We just recently did a green revolver. And those clients' deals were linked to sustainability, and the actual price would come down the more sustainable the company would get. So there's real value, and not huge numbers. What I'm trying to say here is that those deals were oversubscribed. There's a huge amount of investors out there who actually want to invest in sustainable companies. We actually have done some of the research that says sustainable companies are better risk. So there's a reason why you give them a lower price.
Right.
So besides that point that I was mentioning about sustainability becoming a matter of compliance, and so you're going to be on it or you're no longer be able to do business. Besides that, I think investors really want it.
Interesting. Okay, we're almost out of time. I'm going to do a quick run along the panel. There's a question here. Can we switch into the circular economy without degrowth? Okay, I want a yes or a no from my panel. Can we switch into circular economy without degrowth? Because there's all this more competitive, more stuff, more services, growth, GDP, blah, blah, blah. Can we switch into circular economy without degrowth? Starting at the far end, yes or no?
Yes, definitely. I think.
Good. Quentin?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
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 No from me. Okay, that's fine. Very interesting. Okay, just finally, and I tell you, there's some great questions and comments, and I think we'll capture them because somehow, particularly a lot of interesting around wood and all sorts of great stuff, but we don't have time to actually discuss them. But I just wondered if there was a surprising message coming from you. So I feel the warmth and blah of transformation. We can do it. Blah 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 blah. But if you had just one biting thought or a message to this audience as they glide through the rest of the forum that maybe should unsettle us, but also might help us as we're thinking towards transformation to a circular economy, what would it be? And I'm going to go from the far end. Unsettle me.
Unsettle. I think there is not going to be one solution, it's going to be many solutions, and you're coming back to doing a lot or more research and development.
Okay.
It will be like when you are in those kind of changes when it comes to business. We are in situations where we don't have solutions of everything. And that is actually how it should be. Because I think people search for solution and they need to have answers, and that they will come.
Okay. Matti.
Be brave, believe, and prove.
Isabel.
If you're a company out there or you're dealing with a company out there, have the guts to disrupt yourself.
Okay, fantastic. Quentin.
Collaborate with your competitors, so to create the systems change.
All right. Is it collaboration? I forget. Well, there was a great word that was coined, which doesn't seem to have had a common currency beyond its first airing. Very interesting. And finally,
So
Maria.
if we look at the past 10 years, we've seen how iPhones have completely transformed the way we live, how renewable energy are transforming the way we consume energy. And what I can say is that let's get started to get a transformation going on with the circular economy.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, speakers, panelists, fantastic first session. Thank you very much. You've stimulated our thinking. We hope that you feel energized by this first session. There's a break now, 11 o'clock. There's an amazing choice of sessions to go to. Go forth, network, and we'll see you a little bit later. Thank you very much.